Hi, everybody. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, Texas on Friday, May the 16th. And welcome to our commentary. You know, we've been waiting for the Pope, the new Pope, to say something. Uh, and apparently he did. Now, I did not hear him say this. This is a quote or something that I picked up on Twitter. So, I'm assuming this is what he said, but I didn't hear it. So I just want to put that up front. Sometimes people attribute things to people that they really didn't say or whatever. So I'm going to keep that possibility open because I didn't actually hear him say this. But this is allegedly what he said, or at least people are saying that he said. Number one, he's a very strong believer in the family unit, father and mother in a home. He believes very strongly in that family unit, traditional family unit, whatever you want to call it. And he also believes in the rights of the unborn, which is another way of saying that he doesn't like abortion. So those are the two things, I guess, most controversial is that the new Pope has said. I happen to agree with the Pope on those two. And if that's exactly what he said, that's probably is true. But again, I didn't hear him. I just want to put that up there. I have to like it. I have to like it when the Pope makes a statement like that. There's no question in my mind that what he said about the family structure is correct. I mean, just look around. Look at the number of kids growing up in these broken homes or whatever. It's not a good arrangement. Not a good arrangement for the kids, not a good arrangement for society. And it's a very bad arrangement for the single mothers who very often get stuck in these broken homes. So if that's what the Pope is going to be, if that's the kind of Pope he's going to be, if that's what he's going to be out there saying, then that's a good beginning. That's a very good beginning, I feel, for the new Pope, who has been in for a week? And I believe they're going to have his formal mass or first mass in a couple of days or a week or so. Secretary Rubio is going, Vice President Vance is going. So that's a good thing. That's a good thing that we're sending two of our most senior people to that mass. So good to hear. Good news from the Pope. The other big story today is that the GOP House did not get the votes to get out of committee, to get President Trump's, what he likes to call the beautiful bill, out of committee. There are three, I believe, congressmen. One of them is Chip Roy of Texas, who want more spending cuts. They want more spending cuts. They say, hey, we can't go on like this. I agree with them. I actually agree with them on that. We cannot go on spending like this. There has to be a point where we say no more spending, or at least let's restrict spending. Over in the Senate, Senator Johnson from Wisconsin would like to basically go back to 2019 levels before the pandemic when it comes to spending, to spending in the federal government. So I actually agree with these guys. I actually think that what they're saying is true, that we need to do something about it. Now, what I think is going to happen is that President Trump is going to become very active in these negotiations, and he's going to be talking to these representatives in the House. And I think they'll eventually work something out. In other words, they will eventually come up with some amendments or something in the final package that pleases them enough to vote for it. Because I think most Republicans understand that, the old line about failure is not an option. I think most Republicans understand what happens. If you don't get this bill through, that's a huge defeat for President Trump. And we don't need that right now. So I think most Republicans will probably go along with the final product. But it's going to take some negotiations. And that's okay. That's okay. I don't have any problem with these negotiations. I think we need to have them. I think we need to put everything on the table. And I agree with many of these GOP members of the House who are saying, hey, we got to cut more spending. We're spending too much money we don't have, to make matters worse. So, we got to keep cutting. We got to keep cutting. And I agree with them. I agree with them in principle, but at the same time, I'm a practical person, and I understand that you're going to have to make some compromises and cut some deals here just to make sure that this particular bill gets to the Senate, because I think in the Senate, they've got the votes. I mean, all they need in the Senate is 50 votes. There's 53 Republicans. All they need is 50 votes. Because if there's a tie, the vice president will break it and it'll pass that way. But I think they've got the votes in the Senate. But the House, there's more work to be done. So this will probably go back to the negotiating table and we'll have more give and take. But now that President Trump is back in town, he'll probably be very involved in this. And I'm pretty sure he's aware of the fact of how important it is to pass this bill. But I think he also understands, look, these people have legitimate gripes. I think they do. I mean, I don't think they're being selfish and saying we got to have more spending. I think we should as well. So they'll figure it out. I'm pretty confident of that they will figure it out. But still, it's gonna be more, I guess, more long days for the speaker at the office. That's all I can tell you. It's going to be some very long days, and maybe some weekends at work, some Sundays and Saturday afternoons in the office, because this is going to require a lot of maneuvering on the part of the speaker. And I think President Trump, too, is going to get very involved in this, and he should. He's always very persuasive when he talks to these members of Congress. So the bill is not done yet, but I'm pretty sure that it will be done eventually, because I think they need to get this done by July 4th. Not that there's anything magical about that date. Of course, it's Independence Day, but I mean, they want to get this done this summer so that then they can set the table for next year's elections. Also, the sooner they do this, the sooner they pass this bill and it becomes formally, the tax bill of the country, I think the sooner that happens, you're going to see a huge explosion in the economy and the market and the stock market, because I think they're all calculating that this is going to pass, but they're waiting for it to pass. So it's got to be done. It's got to be done. And let's get together and figure it out. I'm sure there's a point where both sides can agree that this is where we need to be to get this thing done. So let's get that point. It's going to require a lot of negotiation, but that's okay. That's what these people do. And the real deal master here, if you will, and I got to say it, The Art of the Deal, the author of The Art of the Deal, Donald Trump. I think you're going to see him pull off this incredible deal. I've got a post over at the American Thinker today talking about Europe and how Europe is slowly coming to terms with the reality that they will have to spend more money on their defense. They have to. They have no choice. They have been basically getting a free ride. They've been on a free ride, really, for quite some time. Free in the sense that they've been protected by the United States. The United States has been protecting these countries. And that cannot go on. I mean, not that we're going to walk away completely. No, we're not going to do that because we have vested interests as well. But I think they need to spend more money on their defense. They got to build more tanks. They got to have more soldiers. They got to be better prepared to go to war if that's what happens. And right now they're not, because they've been counting on the United States. So I think you're seeing more and more Europeans beginning to realize that they have to do that. And that's what my article is about, that when you have the head of the European Union basically saying that in so many words, hey, we got to spend more money on defense. We got to prepare ourselves for war. And in fact, she was paraphrasing George Washington's line about, the best way to prevent war is to be, or the best, something along the lines of the best way to have peace is to be ready for war, or something like that. And that's exactly right. That's exactly right. You got to be ready for war. And that's the best way to have a peaceful situation. So it looks like the Europeans are coming around. And we got to say thank you here to President Trump, because he put the foot down. He's put his foot down the first time he was president, and he's been doing it ever since. And look, NATO is not going to survive if the United States is doing all the heavy lifting, because the American people are not going to support it. It's as simple as that. The American people are not going to support defending countries that don't want to defend themselves. And that's just the bottom line. So we'll see how it goes from here. Well, I've got a post coming out Saturday morning talking about some professors who decided to leave the United States because they think that, we're turning into a fascist country. They think that Trump is Hitler and all these absolutely incredibly stupid things that you hear from the other side. And these three professors, they decided to move to Canada. I guess they feel that there's more freedom up there. Well, okay, good luck to them. I have no problem. Canada is a beautiful country. But I guess they're going to move up there. And Jonathan Turley wrote a great piece about this, and I linked to that in my blog post coming out tomorrow, where Jonathan Turley is sort of making fun of these professors, saying, so you think that the American election of 2024 was like the election of Hitler in 1933? I mean, come on. What kind of a fool are you? No, I mean, of course we have elections. We don't have a fascist country. If we had a fascist country, we wouldn't be talking in the Supreme Court about district judges writing nationwide injunctions. I mean, if we had a fascist country, people in the media would be locked up because that's what fascist leaders do. So, I mean, these people who throw out these words, fascism, Hitler, they don't know what the heck they're talking about. But here's the sad part. A lot of people listen to them. I always say to people when they want to talk to me about a dictatorship, I always say to them, you know what? I actually lived under a dictatorship. My parents left Cuba and they took me out of Cuba because they understand what a communist and a dictator is. My dad's cousin was in jail for 14 years, a political prison. Okay. He was simply arrested and thrown in jail. There was no due process, as these people like to say. No, he was thrown in jail. So that's what happens in a real dictatorship. So if the United States was actually a real dictatorship, these three professors who apparently think that we're headed to fascism or whatever, these three professors would be in jail for saying stuff like that. So it is really sad. It's really sad how ignorant some of these people are. And yet, they're collecting a paycheck and people buy their books or whatever. And, that's the way it is. If you say anything about Donald Trump, that's the other thing, too. I think that's what motivates this. If you say anything like that about Donald Trump, you're going to immediately be invited on some talk show or whatever, because there's a market for that. And that's what this is insane all about. Well, there you have it. It reminds me, in fact, in my post tomorrow, I talk about how a lot of these people, these people are sort of like the guy who cried wolf. Remember the story about the boy who cried wolf? That after a while, he cried wolf all the time just to get people's attention. After a while, they were not paying attention to him. And that's kind of what's happening to these people who keep talking about Hitler and Trump. They've got their little market, but for the most part, I think a lot of people just go, come on, just shut up and tell me something rational. And if you think the United States is so bad, hey, just go somewhere else. We're not going to miss you. So good luck to these professors wherever they're going to go. And I hope they find what they're looking for. I'm not sure they will in Canada, but that's for them to figure it out. Well, thank you for listening. Have a great weekend, everybody. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye, everybody.